What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, and no, I am not joking around with my title today. Tom Cruise could be entering the MCU as Iron Man. Now, lately, Marvel Studios has pretty much opened back up, started production on a lot of their halted projects because of the pandemic, and we've been getting a lot of new content lately, including the Wandavision trailer, which was pretty wacky and crazy. However, this new report that is coming from a pretty credible source is even more crazy. But according to this report, the way Marvel is thinking about doing this is not exactly the way that you would think they would. And it's actually kind of funny and ironic on Marvel Studios' part as well. But Tom Cruise isn't the only super famous actor that could be getting a cameo in the MCU very soon. But don't worry, I'll break down everything that you need to know in this video, including the reason why I think they should actually do this. This week's giveaway is a Scarlet Witch Funko Pop, so be sure to subscribe so you can enter and so you can stay up to date on all things relating to the MCU. So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is quite possibly one of the biggest films and most important films coming not only to Phase 4 but to the MCU in general. And the reason, of course, is because it's going to introduce the multiverse. Yes, we're going to see a tiny bit of this in Wandavision, but that's really just going to be her creating these different realities. But in Multiverse of Madness, it's going to be blown wide open. The multiverse is officially going to be a part of the MCU at that point in time. And apparently, this is what is going to bring Tom Cruise into the MCU as Iron Man in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So this report is coming from Daniel Richmond, who has a pretty good track record when it comes to leaks. And according to his report, he says, Marvel is toying with the idea of doing some high-profile cameos in this film. And one of those is apparently having an Iron Man from an alternate universe and have him played by Tom Cruise. Now, this report at first may seem simple, but there's actually a lot more to this that meets the eye. For starters, this is playing off another rumor that we heard not too long ago about Multiverse of Madness. The report says that in Multiverse of Madness, Marvel Studios is going to have different versions of characters that we already know, played by different actors, alternate versions. These will of course come from different realities that will be explored as the multiverse is burst open in Doctor Strange 2. And apparently in one of these realities we are going to see an Iron Man / Tony Stark played by Tom Cruise. Now, as I mentioned before, this is kind of funny and a little bit ironic because if you didn't know, back in 1998 Tom Cruise actually wanted to produce an Iron Man movie, and not only did he want to produce the movie, but he wanted to star in it as well as Tony Stark / Iron Man. Now, of course, this clearly didn't happen. Tom Cruise is not Iron Man. Iron Man didn't have a movie in 1998. But Tom Cruise wanted to make it happen. That means he talked to people at Marvel about producing the film. And now he may not have a chance to produce an Iron Man movie, but he may have the chance to play Iron Man. Now, this would be pretty cool to see because he wouldn't be taking the place of the Tony Stark that we know and love from our main MCU timeline. He'd be playing an Iron Man from a different universe, one that wouldn't be sticking around too long in our universe, but would simply have a cameo. So the fact that Marvel Studios wants alternate versions of some of the heroes that we already know and have in our main MCU timeline means that we could see some pretty crazy things. And the one crazy thing that everybody wants to see that seems very, very possible right now is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man making a cameo in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and in the MCU. The report that Marvel Studios wants alternate versions of characters that we know in Multiverse of Madness combined with the fact that Sam Raimi, the director of the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, is now the director of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's the perfect opportunity for us to get some pizza time.
Pizza time.
And for us to potentially get that classic Spider-Man meme where Spider-Man is pointing at himself. But Marvel Studios could take this even further. It actually opens up a huge possibility to do something truly hilarious. They could have the alternate versions of the characters that we know be the people who also auditioned for the roles before they went to the current actors. For example, with Thor and Loki, Tom Hiddleston originally auditioned for the role of Thor. Now, of course, and thankfully, he didn't get the role because he is a perfect perfect Loki and Chris Hemsworth is a perfect Thor. But it doesn't mean that there's not an alternate reality in which Loki is Thor, or at least Tom Hiddleston is Thor. The same goes for John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Now, of course, by now I'm sure many of you have heard the rumors that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, who are married, have met with Marvel Studios. Emily Blunt reportedly met with Marvel Studios while filming Disney's Jungle Cruise, which of course is owned by Disney, which owns Marvel, and Krasinski apparently had a Zoom meeting with people over at Marvel Studios during the pandemic. Now, of course, many people want them to be playing Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, but what if Marvel really wants them just to play alternate versions of characters in Multiverse of Madness? You see, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt actually auditioned for Marvel roles. Krasinski auditioned for the role of Captain America. Of course, Chris Evans went on to get that role, thankfully. He's perfect. And Emily Blunt actually was supposed to be the original Black Widow. Marvel Studios actually wanted Emily Blunt to play Black Widow, but unfortunately for her, she was under contractual obligations with 20th Century Fox at the time. But again, we're all grateful of this, not because we don't like Emily Blunt, but because we love Scarlett Johansson. But what if, in Multiverse of Madness, the alternate versions of Captain America and Black Widow are John Krasinski as Captain America and Emily Blunt as Black Widow? For the really deep Marvel fans who knew John Krasinski auditioned for Captain America and knew Emily Blunt was actually supposed to be Black Widow, this would be truly hilarious, and would be a pretty brilliant move on Marvel's part. Heck, Zachary Levi even auditioned for the role of Star-Lord. Of course, he's now Shazam, but if he was able to do a cameo in a Marvel film, that would actually be pretty cool. Now, of course, it would be awesome to see all of these different actors play alternate versions of the characters that we know and love, especially since they're going to be just cameos and not actually replacing anybody. But the real important setup here for Multiverse of Madness, with involving all of these alternate versions of characters, is going to be the teaser and setup for Avengers Secret Wars. Secret Wars is what everybody is expecting the next Avengers Endgame level event to be. It's a major story from the comics where a bunch of different universes actually collide and become one universe. And what happens is you see many different versions of the same character all together. So we could have a couple of different Captain Americas fighting together, a couple of different Iron Mans, a few different Thors. The possibilities are truly endless, but the first glimpse that we're going to see of this in the MCU is going to be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So really, this is going to be a huge and very important movie for Marvel's Phase 4. It's pretty much going to set up the next 10 plus years of the MCU. And not to mention, it could be how the X-Men possibly come into the MCU as well, but that's a video for another day. Be sure to subscribe for more Marvel and DC content so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. And in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments down below about Tom Cruise possibly making a cameo as Iron Man. Also, let me know who you would just absolutely love to see make a brief cameo in the MCU as an alternate version of one of these favorite characters that we know and love. Let me know who you would choose to appear in Multiverse of Madness in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video, and for live updates you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.